Welcome to my podcast story, the show where podcasters share the real journey behind their voices, from their first mic check to their biggest milestones. Every episode reveals the lessons, challenges, and breakthrough that shape a podcast star's journey. I'm your host, Wisdom Okonkwo, and I can't wait for you to hear today's story. Today's guest is Debbi DiMaggio, a longtime real estate advisor, entrepreneur, and the host of the Mastering the Art of Success podcast. What makes Debbi's story interesting isn't just her experience, it's how she's translated decades of business, mindset work, and personal discipline into a podcast that reflects actual process, not just polished outcomes. In this conversation, we're going to dig into how her podcast fits into a much larger ecosystem, from coaching and writing to daily routines and long-term consistency. We'll talk about what it really takes to keep showing up and how our thinking about growth and audience has evolved, and what podcasters can learn from someone who spent years building momentum in different arenas. This is a grounded look at podcasting as a long-term practice, not a quick win. Welcome to the podcast, Debbi.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah. What is the name of your podcast?
The name now is Mastering the Art of Success. It was
Okay.
for the first year Mastering the Art of Real Estate.
Wow. Oh, and you changed it to Mastering the Art of Success. Why not just start a new podcast?
Right. So I changed it because I was interviewing a lot of realtors, of course, because that's what I do. And I wanted to brand myself. And then I have a lot of people reaching out from around the world to have their person be on my podcast. And really, when I was hosting Mastering the Art of Real Estate, a lot of what real estate agents do is very similar to anyone with a service, product, or brand. So you don't have to be in real estate to enjoy my podcast and learn from it. But really what we were talking about is how is someone successful? And so as I was trying to pivot, I should have called it Mindset in Motion, because that's the name of my new book.
Yeah.
But I made it a little easier because I already had the mastering of. So I pivoted to Mastering the Art of Success, so I can incorporate anyone, and everyone has a story.
Wow, that's lovely. You started the podcast, Mastering the Art of Real Estate, and now the Mastering the Art of Success. Um, why start a podcast? I mean, you've written books, you know, that seems to be your medium. Why a
Yes.
podcast?
Well, it's every year. So I've been practicing real estate for 35 years, and every year I always like to try something new. So when my daughter left for college, that's when I wrote the first book, and then stumbled into writing another and another and another. Then I was kind of done with that, and I said, what am I going to do this year? And this was a couple years ago. And I said, well, I think after having writing books, probably a podcast is the next thing. So I started researching that. And I was very fearful of being on camera and talking. But when I'm talking to people, like sitting here talking to you, I feel like it's just the two of us in the world. So it doesn't feel like I'm on camera at all. I'm just sitting here in my living room and I'm having a wonderful conversation. And so it was a little bit of pushing myself to see if I could do it. The hard part for me was just dealing with tech, which I don't have to deal with. After all the people started approaching me, this one person
Yeah.
said all of that. So I don't do any tech. I just show up and they do it for me. So that's been really wonderful. But every year I like to try something different. And it's been 2 years now and I love it.
Oh, how long did it take before you before you moved from being the from wearing many hats to
Yes.
having someone do, because you're the producer, the guest outreach manager, editor, and all those things, and now you have
No,
someone.
I don't do any of that. I don't do any of that. All I do is find my guest. Now, with how I've been on it so long now, I don't even look for guests anymore because they come to me.
Yeah.
And so I don't do any of that. They come to me, we book them, and then I tell them, I need your photo, I need your bio, and I need 8 images from you, and then send it to New York. I'm in California. I send it, and the guest could be anywhere in the world. I send them those assets, and then we go live 10 minutes to the hour, and then I'm done. And it's live, so there is no editing. We just go on live.
Wow.
And my first episode was live too. I just thought I might as well just throw myself in and see what happens.
Wait, it's live. Earlier on, you mentioned that someone approached you to do the editing and all that for you.
Yeah. So part of my book, Mindset in Motion, is about looking for opportunities, always being look out for the magic and what might happen. And I started putting it out there in my mind and looking at, and I guess talking about it. But all of a sudden on Instagram, have your own podcast, do a podcast, and then you just start seeing stuff. So there are people that you can do a podcast with, but they only did certain aspects of it. But out of the blue, like, things happen with me. This company out of New York reached out and they said, would you consider having a conversation? We got on a Zoom call for an hour and I told them I didn't want to deal with tech. And I was about to sign with someone else and try to deal with some of it. And they said, no, we do it all. You just get your guest. And then we log into our platform. They set us up together and they do it all. I don't touch a button.
What's the name
Other
of the company?
it's no longer, it was, what was it? It's no longer, they got too busy. And so thank God the producer of the company went on and started a different company, a smaller company. And I'm blanking on the name. His name is
Wait,
Tom. But
wait.
yes, so now I don't have to do it. I don't do any of the tech.
So the big company, I don't know what happened to the big company, and then someone from the company started their own company, and
Yeah.
wow.
So
What's the name
yeah,
of this company now that's working with you?
new company. I'm trying to think. His name is Thomas Shinzano.
Oh,
And I
Thomas.
can't remember, but I'm happy to share that with you. Yeah, it
Okay.
was. So now it's same platform. Every Thursday I log in 10 minutes to 2 and I go.
Oh, so wow, that's really lovely. Wow.
No
That's like
rivers.
my dream.
I know. I don't do editing. I
Yeah. Wow.
don't.
You're having great conversation. Sometimes while you're having a great conversation, I don't know if you ever experienced that, but the flash of the work you have to do after the conversation just flash through your mind. Yeah. And it's like
Yeah,
a trance. And then you come back and
yeah.
you're like, okay, yeah, wow, you smile.
Ew, I couldn't do it. If I had to push any buttons, I'd probably erase the whole podcast. So no, when I get off, I'm done. I just could go get something to drink, get something to eat. I'm done.
Yeah, I'm curious what the arrangement is like. Is it are you paying for the service or it's a revenue share?
Yes, I pay for not a lot, but I pay them monthly, and I'm every week I have a podcast and it's live and I'm booked now through the end of November.
Oh, wow. Well, it took me some time to calculate the number. At first, I was like, "Ooh!" I was like, "Wait, we're in March."
Yeah, I saw an email with the guy and he says, "Wow, you're booked through November." And then if someone cancels, I can pop someone in. But
Yeah.
through November right now.
Wow, that's lovely.
Thank
That's
you.
really lovely. Wow. The fact that, your show has okay, why do you think guests are rushing your podcast? Is it because you're popular or is it because the show idea is just amazing?
Well, I would love that it was so amazing. I was monetizing it, which I am not, and I don't even know how to go there, but that would be nice. I don't know. I really don't know. So this is in my thinking is weird sometimes, but I have so much fun doing it and I love meeting new people. I haven't really stopped to think about what I could do to monetize and why is it and how many people are watching. I really do not know. My husband sent me a photo of at the office and he had us on the big screen and I go, oh, I'm actually somewhere. It's not just me in my living room talking to this person. Anyway, I have no idea how many people watch Mastering the Art of Success. And I don't know why. I'll have to ask the people. So there's these two women who approach me now. They've sent me guests in the past, and so I asked them. They asked me, can we give you more guests?" And I'm like, "Sure. It's easier for me if they give me guests." And they always
Yeah.
have very professional, very good guests. And so instead of me trying to find people, which is not hard because sometimes you find really good people on LinkedIn because you can see what they're doing. But they've sent me some really great people and they'll send me their bio and I'll look to see if it's aligned. And and it's broad. If it's something that I'm interested in, it could be a very broad from health and nutrition to real estate and business and founders and coaches. But they've sent me so many people. So I said to them, here, I'm open for the next couple months. So right now they've been vetting the people because they have people who pay them and then they're sending them my way. But they said people enjoy being on your podcast and I don't know why, but I will find out and ask them why people want to be on my podcast.
Yeah,
And then
that's
I'll share that with you.
yeah, that's the part I was asking, not the audience, the listeners part, because there are certain kind of shows that people just wow, like I love the show, I want to be on the show, and then there are others where it's great, it's okay, but no,
Yeah.
it's just there.
I'll have to ask them why. Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, earlier on, before we pressed record, you were telling me that you loved your podcast because it allows you to sit.
Sit down for 30 to 50 minutes.
Oh, that's lovely. With the podcast, right? You've been doing this for 2 years, and you're fortunate enough to have a company that's handling the production, the tech side, and you get to focus on being awesome, which is really great. How do you approach these conversations?
You
What's the
know,
Debbie way?
Yes. Well, I love meeting new people, so it makes it easy. So I lead with that. I really enjoy travel for that because I love meeting new people and hearing their stories. So that's number
Okay.
one. The second one is that once I read their bio, I don't do research ahead of time. Once I read their bio, I already have questions that come up. And the first thing I always ask is when you were growing up or when you graduated college or when you moved from, younger person to an adult, did you know this is what your field would be? And most people, it wasn't their path. So I asked about that. And then from that, there's always questions that I have from their bio and how they got where they are. And so it really comes naturally. Very few times have I been so bored that I didn't have questions.
Uh, I, d- usually with a podcast conversation, right? I
Yes.
think there's a minimum. I don't know what there is really no agreed number, but there's a minimum length of recording you get to do, except of course the guest is just unprofessional and terrible. Then you get to cancel the meeting and kick them out. But other than that, if it's just a case of the interview being boring, there's a minimum amount of minutes. Let's say it's a 1 hour interview scheduled. You can't just do 5 or 10 minutes and say, okay, we're done. How do you
Right.
power through,
Right. Right.
yeah.
Right. I think only one time I actually texted um, my producer during the show and said, we're going to cut early. It's a 50-minute show. And I think we cut at the 45
Oh,
because
okay.
but I did text him and say, we're going to cut about 5 minutes early. I was a little bored.
Was it just what was happening that day, in your
I don't
life?
even
Oh,
remember, but I really had no questions for him.
oh,
I was like, I mean, we did 45 minutes, but I was just, and maybe he was repeating or not. He just wasn't giving me a whole lot I mean, it wasn't of interest and it wasn't really, yeah. Cause sometimes, I mean, I could talk forever and most of them just like today fly by so fast. And I don't want to bore the audience too. But most stories are, I mean, most people are so interesting.
yeah. Well, how do you define success for your podcast?
That I have guests. I mean, that people want to be on my show for me. I mean, that's exciting that I can fill up when I told that to my daughter, she's like, what? I'm like, yeah, I have guests and all the way through. And then another way I started, well, that's not the answer to your question, but we get so many emails through
Yeah.
will come to us. And there are some people that I'm getting blasted constantly. So I responded to their e-blast and said, would you like to be on my podcast? So a few people I had on my podcast and they were interesting people, but I had been receiving emails from them and I forgot how, and I didn't even know what they did. One was selling a product, but she was also a real estate agent and she was really great. And we also got into health and wellness, and that was also very interesting. So you just never know who's coming across your email.
Oh, oh. Before launching the podcast, what did you believe podcasting would do for you? And how accurate were those expectations?
Yeah, I think for me it's about experiencing and learning. So that's where I start from the heart and from a place of learning um and growing. personally. And so that I've definitely improved from day one, where I was just, okay, here I am. I've never done this before. I mean, just setting up the mic was like a big thing. So I could do the mic, and I've got a light, and
Yeah.
um I could talk for a while, and I think I'm pretty interesting. And I'm asking questions of people, so they're interesting. But I've improved, and that's personally. I would like to work or network or collaborate more with people, whether it's a referral through real estate, or one of some of the people I meet are from abroad. And so I'd like to go to see the realtor and the attorney in Marbella, Spain, just taking the people I meet and going on the road and meeting them. And now with my book, Mindset in Motion, I'd like to speak on the topic of helping people conquer their goals, whatever it is. And I've conquered quite a few, whether it's writing a book or starting a podcast or launching a company in a recession. So I just want to take it on the road from here. But when when you're podcasting, you're sharpening your skills, right?
Quick break. Before we continue, I'd love to invite you to join the My Podcast Story newsletter. Each week, I share highlights from our guest stories, behind the scenes podcasting tips, and resources to help you grow your own show. You can sign up at mypodcaststory.com/join. That is mypodcaststory.com/join. Now, let's get back to the episode. Yeah. Wow. You're sharpening your skills. You said, you've improved, and I'm curious how so. How do you know you've improved?
Gosh, I am not an actress. I am not someone who likes the camera. And to be able to speak for 50 minutes and then hold a conversation and sit still, that you have no idea. I never sit still. So when I first started doing it, I'd be like, okay, just don't move, don't move, don't move. And so I've
Yeah.
got good about sitting still. So it might be little things, nothing huge, but no, but in the speaking too, having a conversation and fewer buts and ums, and just sharpening your skills and your presentation skills, right? As we speak, we're getting better at that. And after a couple of years, and then I notice it. Oh, here's where I noticed it.
Okay.
So I was on someone else's podcast, and she's new, and she's younger than me. And I was on her podcast, and we were sitting there in person, and she was working hard to just do the quick little introduction. But she's also originally from Cambodia, so she has a little of an accent. So she would add S's or not add S's, and she just, it was her language, just what she was used to. And so I just supported her and said, years ago when I thought this course that I took, 25 years ago, I said, I'm never going to be on TV. I'm never going to do that. But it was a woman that was training me on sound bites and like being a newscaster sort of thing. It was also about like a game show host and how you speak in bites. So I said to her, I said, and I said her name, I am Debbi DiMaggio. I am the president of Women's Council of Realtors. I said, just break it down. You know who you are. I am Kanika Kim. I am the president of Women's Council of Realtors. I'm here with Debbi DiMaggio, my guest today. So I just got her to break it down. And once she did that, she was able to repeat that because we made it into smaller little bits. So what I've learned and over the years, even though when I didn't think I was learning anything, I can now take that forward. So I believe everything I do is a stepping stone, and it just makes me just a more confident person. And when you're more confident, you can do more. Does that resonate?
Let that sink in. Wow, wow, wow. It's amazing how sometimes we don't really know how well we've improved until we then see someone and like, oh wow, I was once like that.
Right? I was,
In a time like that.
yeah, you don't know. I think I said this to you before. You don't know what you don't know until you know.
Yeah, you don't know what you don't know until you know. The podcast is there. You've published your book, recent book, Mindset in Motion, and you talked about going, international, real estate deals in other countries, and it sounded as though your podcast is just real estate, and I'm like, well, what about the regular guy who's just talking about business and success? What's in it? What's the plan for them? terms of
Oh,
the
no, it's
podcast?
not just real estate. It's for anyone. My podcast, that's why I pivoted from calling it Mastering the Art of Real Estate to Mastering the Art of Success. So, whatever you do, I had a chiropractor from Italy on my show. We spoke about what he does and how he helps people. I've had coaches, I've had realtors, of course. I've had people who severely became homeless and then they rose back and they got their life together and went on to be successful. So I interview all types of people. Doesn't matter. I can interview if someone's getting over an addiction, someone's going through divorce, someone's going through empty nest. The whole gamut. You're trying to achieve a goal, personal or a business goal. It doesn't matter what it is. So I talk I'm interviewing the person, so we're talking about that person specifically. I interviewed
Yeah,
my publicist the other day, talking about her journey. So it's really about, I'm speaking to anyone, whatever their journey is, wherever they came from and where they are now. Today's episode was with Jojo Laricia, and she's a video. She creates what are those? She creates short videos for clients.
UGC,
Whatever. Yeah,
User
she
UGC.
these short videos, but
Yeah,
one of the key takeaways, though, what I saw in that, she was doing a job working for her father and her family, selling trinkets and things for down by the wharf, but she was making her money doing that,
yeah,
but she was working full time as an intern for 10 years in a studio, they didn't pay her at all. You couldn't do that now, but she was working in a studio. She learned everything about producing and directing and camera and editing and videos, and she learned everything. She was not getting paid. And what I say about that is she had an interest and a passion, and even though she wasn't in school, proper school, taking classes, she was learning on the job. And it's so important for people to learn on the job something that they're interested in. And now later she's taken it on and she has her own company, and that's what she's doing. She's not doing what she did, what was her original paid job. Now she's doing what her passion is. So having mentors I talk about is very important. But no, my book is for everyone and my podcast is for anyone. It doesn't have to be just real estate related at all.
yeah. Well, mastering the art of success. Mastering the art of success. With your podcast, I'm curious. One of the things that I like to do is when guests come on my podcast, I ask them the goals they have for their podcast because I love to interview you a year from now, 2 years from now, and say, "Yeah, Debbie,
Yes.
the last time we spoke,
I
you
would love
said
to.
you wanted to give a TED talk, and how did that go?" And oh yeah, I gave a TED talk. I told you about it. Like,
Uh-huh. Well, that's one of them. The TED Talk was actually supposed to happen before this last book. I started taking a course to do a TED Talk,
yeah,
and as I was doing that, it translated into me writing a book because I needed to find clarity. So yes, I'd like to do a TED Talk, and I would also like to travel the world speaking about my book and mastering the art of success and doing it in person. So taking mastering the art of success on tour, being in different cities and doing it live, doing it on stage. Same with speaking and helping people wherever they are in the world and whatever it is they're looking to achieve. I mean, you can sit in an audience and everyone's going to have a different goal, but I can help guide and create what I call the mindset and motion method blueprint. So if you send me a goal, I can create a blueprint for you to help you with your goal and using my 5-step method, and I can email it to you.
wow, I'm tempted right now.
Send
Uh,
me
I
your
want to
goal
ask
and
a
then,
question.
yeah,
Uh, I want to ask a question. Let's say, what's a common goal podcasters usually have? Make money,
monetize it. Yes.
make like 10 grand from the podcast every month. I mean,
How do people do it? How
a
do people
man,
mon
eh, a man can dream. Yeah. So let's say hypothetically that's the goal, right? How do I turn that into motion?
Oh, how do you so first of all, you have a goal and your goal is very clear. You want to make
Yeah.
money. This is your goal is very clear. You want to make money on your podcast. And then you are going to believe it and speak in the affirmative. You can, not that you will or want to. Your podcast will generate $10,000 a month or whatever. And then your internalize is really meditating on it, writing it out, write all your thoughts and ideas around how you can monetize your podcast. and then share it with people. There's probably other people in your community who are doing something similar. Reach out to people online. Like if you didn't know me, you could have reached out to me online, asked me questions. There are so many coaches out there. So you start to share it, right? You try to get some, you work up getting support of your community, of your family, of your friends, the people that you're interviewing. You're probably interviewing some pretty incredible people, is my guess. So you have a network. So now the activation phase is you have to ask. You have to reach out to people. Lewis Howes, he was sleeping on his sister's couch, and from what I hear, he started interviewing very wealthy people to hear what made them tick. So you too can do that. You can reach out to people and ask them. Go on LinkedIn. I know you're on LinkedIn because we're friends now. Go on LinkedIn and
She called me a friend.
reach out to these people and ask them, how do you monetize? I'm sure there'll be a lot of people soliciting you to join something and something and something, but reach out to people and find mentors and find people to support you. So after you start activating and asking, then let's talk in 6 months.
Huh?
Now you
Millions.
And this is where people get hung up in the mindset and motion method. They don't, they're like, okay, I have the goal. Okay, I know I can have it. But then when it comes to activation, oh God, that's going to take work.
Yeah, I think it's funny though, but maybe it's planned, maybe it's not. I don't know. But the series of steps you talked about, it appears as though that's what I'm using your mindset in motion framework to
Good.
actually have you on the podcast and interviewing
Oh,
you. And yeah, we were talking.
really?
The last interview we did, I was like, I had a lot of notes, a lot of things to apply. And then when I was looking forward to this interview, I was like, ooh, I'm going to take another one. And after it, I was like, I was shaking my head.
Oh,
Right. Yeah, and I'm having this conversation with you. I've connected with you on LinkedIn, and the strange thing was that when I was searching for you on Instagram, right? I think someone else you interviewed or so. I don't know, but how Instagram would recommend other people when I follow you and all that, right? I saw her. She does branding and she has about 6,000 followers. I random stranger, I don't really know her. I just messaged her and was like, "Hi, love what you do." I didn't do love. I don't do that. Fake love. Like, hi.
right.
I was like, I love to interview you on my podcast. Straight up. I didn't.
Yeah,
I didn't fake that I love your podcast. If it did
right.
change my life, I would talk about that. But I don't want to fake that stuff. And she responded. It was like, "Oh wow, that's so lovely. Tell me about your
And she said
podcast."
yes.
No,
And she said yes.
she said, "Tell me about your podcast." And so I have to now go and tell her. But with the way it is now, she's going to say yes because my podcast is about what she talks about. So she's a great guest.
That's awesome. See, you
Yeah.
asked. You just have to ask.
Yeah. I need to do more asking. I need people to be tired of me asking. They need to
Yes.
know me that, oh, that guy, he always asks.
Yep, you have to ask that. Like we spoke about it on my last podcast, and it's what I talk about in my book. You have to ask, what's the worst? They don't respond. No one's going to hurt you. No one's going to beat you up. You just have to ask. You just have to ask and see what happens. And the worst that can happen is something really great can happen.
Yeah. I think what I've noticed, right? From my little experience with podcast, getting guests on my podcast, not making money now. I'll get there, right? When I get there, I would use that as an example. But for now, let me use the example that I feel like I've conquered, which is getting guests on my podcast. Um,
Right.
um, with that, I realized that sometimes, it's not just enough to ask, right? Sometimes we're asking too little, right? Sometimes we
Mhm.
need to ask up to 100, like message to 100 people
Right.
just to get two persons, right? And then I
Right.
could ask one or three persons and they all say no. And I'm like, oh, Debbie said I should ask. It doesn't work. You know what she said? That stuff doesn't really work. And now you're looking at me and like, oh, wisdom. How many persons did you ask? And I'm like, well, ask four persons. I mean, four, if you count you, five, right? So they said no.
You just have to ask. And also the other thing is, and if people say no or they can't or they won't, it's, no means next and you just move on. And sometimes people are busy. Right now I'm in the end of writing my book and I have to get off the phone after get to my book editor is in Nigeria. And so we have a time difference. And so I need to get on that. So sometimes people are so busy that, they just don't have the bandwidth, and it doesn't hurt to ask and ask again later.
Oh, oh, ask, 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 ask. I need,
Ask.
I need, I need to keep saying so my brain, like it's it goes in to like, wow, ask, ask, ask. When you don't know what next to do, ask, right? Like, how do I make money?
And then you
Money, right?
hearing it over your shoulder saying, "Oh, there's Debbie again. Just ask.
Ask.
Just oh, I can hear her nagging me. Just ask."
Get out of my head. I was like, ask. I
Then
mean,
you'll have
just
no
ask.
excuse. No excuse at all.
Yeah, I have no excuse. That's true. I'm really looking forward to the conversation 6 months from now, when
Yes.
I do a lot of asking, because I want to. I think one of the things I want to do is I want to fail boldly and I want to fail big time, right? And
Right.
if it didn't work, I know it did not work for me, right? So instead of asking two or three persons and say, well, maybe it works, maybe it doesn't work, I want to ask 1,000 people, right? And
Right.
then if it doesn't work, I move on to the next thing, and it's clear that, oh, that stuff doesn't work, rather than asking two, three persons. And when I see people getting results, I say, well, they're just saying it doesn't work.
Right. Right. You got to try. Got to try, and you
Yeah,
got to keep. And a lot of times people give up just right before they're about to have their big break, right?
yeah.
So to keep going, you must keep going.
Well, I do have a question. With your podcast, we talked about asking mindset and motion. With your podcast, how has the podcast influenced other parts of your business decision making?
Absolutely. Yes, it does, because you're reinforcing what you're talking about, number one, as I'm talking about it, and then I'm talking about something with someone else, and it reinforces, for instance, when I'm talking about how important it is to communicate and how important communication is and how important it is that sometimes we have to pick up the phone. It can't be just by text or email because a lot gets lost in translation. So when I'm talking about communication, or I'm talking about not falling short, but continuing and being consistent. And these are the 5 C's I call of business or real estate or whatever. And so many different things that are so important. And when I'm talking about them as a guest, or if we're talking about just something and where we're aligning with, it reminds me, okay, wisdom, just ask. Okay, Debbie, you said it, you have to do it. So it reinforces everything that I know and do. But sometimes, we get tired, or we don't, or we forget, or you're like this morning, I was in a bad mood because I woke up 5 hours later and I expected my book to be done and it wasn't. And I got really frustrated. And then I got an email from, it was just an e-blast, a daily e-blast from Bob Berg. And it said, sometimes we get, upset, but do we hold it or do we let it go? And I reached out to him and I said, oh my God, this was at the opportune time. I got so upset, and I hate getting upset with people, but I had been doing the work constantly and I wasn't seeing work done on their side. And I got very frustrated. And I said, I hate to be angry. I only want to be happy. And I want everyone to do their job, but I can't do everyone's job. And I said, so your e-blast came at the right time. The message was, to not basically hold on to it. What purpose is that going to serve me, or the rest of the people are going to be, in my day today? If I held on to that, you and I wouldn't be having this lovely conversation.
Yeah. Thank you for not holding on to that.
How could
Yeah.
anyone be upset being around you?
Oh wow. Just a note to self, you mentioned that you love to give a TED talk. You love to take the mindset emotion to workshops, in-person trainings, and
Yes.
in-person speaking engagements. And wow, I would love um, to know when the tech talk comes, not if, but when. So just
Yes,
send me a message
exactly.
so we can pop
Yes.
a virtual champagne.
I would love it. Yes, we're going to do this in 6 months from now. Who knows what will happen by that time?
Yeah,
But a year ago, I said I was going to do the TED Talk, and within less than 12 hours, I decided to write the book because I needed to find clarity
yeah,
before. I hadn't even come up with the method yet. I just knew I needed clarity, and that became the number one step in the framework, the
wow,
clarity part.
wow. Thank you so much, Debbie. Just as a final piece of question, after everything you've built, in business and podcasting, you said you keep trying new things, and in a sense, you conquer those things. I came, I saw, and I'm still conquering. You're still conquering that. What does showing up well actually mean to you now, and how has that definition changed over time?
About showing up.
Showing up well.
Showing up well, yes. I'm always so in my book, and I just rewrote the phrase, but I'm always trying to go push beyond 100. I always wanted to strive for 110%. And that's where I resonate, as always in everything and getting better. Even after in real estate 35 years or writing 6 books, I'm always striving to get better, even in personal life and in communication and with family and with friends, whatever it is, just to get better, to get more than 100, give it more than 100%, give it 110%. And learn, continue learning. I'm always learning. I'm always looking towards mentors, even though I'm also a mentor, a mentee to a lot of people. I'm always looking for mentors myself.
Yeah, well, thank you so much for that advice. And thank you for just letting me know that I need to ask and I need to ask more. Not just ask,
Yes.
but ask more. Where can listeners learn more about your podcast and also connect with you?
Yes. Go to Mastering the Art of Success. You can actually go to just debbipodcast.com. It's on YouTube, but it's Debbi, Debbi podcast.com. It's every Thursday, but I have 2 years of great episodes, so it doesn't matter what you do in life. There's always going to be some piece of information there that will help you in whatever it is you do in your life. You can also go to my website, debbidimaggio.com. And next week, please go to Amazon on the 25th. Mindsetinmotionbook.com will be launching.
Well, I will put the links in the description so listeners can click and go directly to the site. And I would fast track this episode so it gets launched exactly the time you're launching the book. Thank you so much, Debbi.
Thank you. Thank you so
Yeah.
much.
That's it for today's episode of my podcast story. I hope you enjoyed listening to this journey as much as I enjoyed sharing it with you. If you found value in today's episode, make sure to subscribe and leave a review. It really helps others discover the show. And don't forget to join the newsletter at mypodcaststory.com/join for more stories and podcasting insights. Until next time, keep telling your story because someone out there needs to hear it.